I'm really excited today that we're meeting with Mel Barratt, a multi-medal winning Paralympic swimmer. I believe it's 2 golds, 2 silvers, and a bronze. Really exciting. And Mel is now taking on the challenge to be the first blind woman to swim the English Channel. Mel, you just don't stop giving yourself things to do. So tell us a little bit about you and your journey and what's made you do this now.
I swam in the pool for many years, obviously leading up to the Paralympics, and I really enjoyed that. I achieved a lot of things, and it was really rewarding. But I'd always thought that it'd be amazing to be able to swim outside, but I just thought it would be an impossible thing to do for somebody who couldn't see to sight at distant objects and to see where they were going in the water. I knew that a blind man had done it. I think he'd done it quite a while ago, but no blind woman had done it, and so I thought it might be possible, but I just wasn't sure how I could do it. And I kinda just enjoyed being in the open water and then started to think, I might be able to do it, and started to work out possible guiding techniques. Then, 2 years ago, signed up to do the channel, which has now come round incredibly quickly and is now just 4 weeks away.
I know last year you did Lake Geneva with a team of people, which is a major achievement in itself. But, you know, do you feel ready for it now?
Yeah, I mean, it's such a huge challenge in so many different ways. I mean, obviously, even for people who have got normal sight, it's a difficult challenge because there's the cold water tolerance and training for the distance. The swim is 21 miles long, even if it's kind of like port to port, so to speak. But the currents take you off course, so you end up doing more than that. So there's a lot of swimming that needs to be done to get fit for it. And then there's also the mental, you've got to be mentally strong to swim for 12 to 14 hours and get used to the waves and the salt water. Because what you don't realize is that it just burns your mouth and makes everything sore, and it can really
Gosh.
affect you in lots of different ways. Then there's the jellyfish and lots of different things, getting used to the feeds and what you can eat and what you can tolerate, and so many different variables. And then throw into that not being able to actually see where the boat is very well. I mean, I have got some residual vision. So I used to swim as an S12. So that means, for those who don't know that, that means that I'm not completely blind, but I have some vision. So I can see 2/60, which basically means that what somebody with normal sight can see 60 meters away, I can see 2 meters away. And I'm blind in one eye. So that makes it slightly tricky from the point of view which eye I can get out
Mhm.
of the water to see, especially if it's wavy. And I can only see very limited things. But I've started to make really good use
Yeah.
of the vision that I do have, so that I know what I need to look for. So, I can hopefully spot something that's very bright. But then I have also worked out that I can use a radio guiding system. So what happens is that my crew have a microphone and I have a bone conducting headset that I can wear in the water, and basically they can guide me in real time. So far that's worked amazingly well. So like last year when we swam Lake Geneva, which was 71 kilometers, and that was a group of 6 of us, and they took it in turns to guide me. We did like 1 hour at a time, and they took it in turns to guide me, and it was the most amazing experience. It was just incredible. For all of us to work together as a team like that was just an amazing thing to do. So I'm hoping that with the experience of Lake Geneva, and also I swam Lake Windermere as well last year, it's all going to give me some confidence going
Yeah.
forward to next month. But you just never know what you're going to come across.
Obviously, when you do that, and knowing you, because I've known you for a while, I know with your determination, you will do everything in lead. And that will then, presumably, looking back, be a highlight of your career. But, as a Paralympian, what have been the highlights here outside of what you're doing now?
Oh, it's got to be Sydney. Sydney was like the games of the new millennium. I think they branded it as, and it was incredible. I mean, I can still remember it like it was yesterday. The facilities were fantastic, and the volunteers were fantastic. And it was Australia. They love the sport, and it was so exciting to go to Australia. And although I was under a lot of pressure to perform because I'd won the gold medal in Atlanta, I kind of everybody expected me to win in Sydney, but it was still just the most incredible experience. I mean, I think it was like the games of the new millennium, and I think it was like a new era for the Paralympics because we got a bit more coverage, not like we have got today, but it was a step up from what we'd previously had, and we had our own kit rather than being given like offcuts from the Olympic kit. So it was almost like we were starting to be recognised as a Paralympic team, which we should have been, obviously. And so to win there, it was just an incredible thing, and the memories I'll treasure forever from that was to be part of such a fantastic team with so many brilliant athletes that took part. We did so well in those games. I think we ended up coming second in the medal table,
It's
which was
amazing.
brilliant, really. behind Australia, I think, which was, to be expected, home nation. So that would be my highlight, definitely. But then I've tried so many different sports since then. So I've tried rowing and it was a real experience. And I also did triathlon before it became a Paralympic sport, which is slightly frustrating. But I guess I kind of helped develop the sport slightly by, sort of being part of it and trying out different things. And I went to the World Championships in 2008 and won that, which was an amazing thing to do, especially because I'm not a very good runner at all. So I had to make up for everything on the swim and the bike. I'm really proud of that because it was really outside of my comfort zone. But I think probably the thing that I'm most proud of, in a way, is swimming open water and actually competing against people with normal sight. And because I've got these bone conducting headset, I can actually race against them. And I won a race. And I've won two races against quite large a field of competitors. One of them last year was, I think it was about 200 of us. And I won that race overall. I suppose it wasn't like at a national level or even a regional level, but it was something that I was competing against other people with normal sight. And I just, yeah, to actually be able to compete against them on a normal level playing field because of the technology I had was incredible. And to achieve that, I
And
think I'm really proud.
also, you said you're doing the open water and it's different, but what have you found going from indoor swimming to open water swimming? What been the biggest challenges?
In a pool, obviously it's all very controlled. So I know how many strokes it takes to do a length, and I know the lane rope changes colour, so I know when to turn, and it's got a big black line at the end, so you can usually see where you're going, and it's all very controlled, and it's all like flat, nice
Yeah.
flat, smooth water. But going to open water, basically I can't see anything in the water. Sometimes if it's really really clear, like Lake Geneva, you can see
Mhm.
other things in the water, but usually, like when I swam in Dover at the weekend, and literally you can't see, I don't think anybody can see anything in the water there. And above the water, it's taken me a long time to realise, because I can see colours and shapes, I can see certain things if they're really obvious. I can't see buoys. Most people
Mhm.
swim towards buoys, but I can't see those. So I think there's a lot more uncontrollables in open water. You can't control what the water's doing. You can't control what's under the water. You can't control the weather conditions or
Yeah.
what's happening around you. So I think you have to focus more on what you can control. So I tried to make the most of what I can control, which is, how many strokes I'm doing between different places, or apparently I'm a very, very straight swimmer, which
Mhm.
is really lucky because if I wasn't, I'd be in no end of trouble. So I kind of set off a trajectory from a buoy or somewhere that I know. And sometimes I can focus on something like a big cliff face in the distance that's against the sky. If it's not too far away and I can see like the contrast between dark and light, I can swim towards that. Or I can swim alongside something that's bright. So my husband's been in a green kayak. So I can control some things. I think it's a lot more
Yeah.
scary being in open water than the pool, obviously. But it's also a lot more rewarding because, you overcoming difficulties and overcoming challenges, and it's so much more exciting than just plowing up and down a swimming pool. And I love the feeling of the movement in the open water, especially in the sea. Like I said, I've just been in Dover for the weekend and I just loved the variation in the sea. So I never knew what it was going to be like until I got in. And sometimes it was nice and smooth and I felt like I was slicing through the water. And other times it was really bumpy and I was being chucked around and it was very difficult to predict where the waves were coming from and kind of my body was just moving, and I quite enjoyed that actually, although it meant I swam quite a bit slower. I think I quite enjoyed the movement of it all, although I didn't really enjoy thinking what's down there because I'm a bit scared of the jellyfish. I did actually swim into one, which is my first time I've done it, and it was luckily I think it was the right side round, if you know what I mean. So its tentacles was pointing the other way, so I didn't get stung. Although I do think I got stung on the second day because I felt something quite like a nettle sting on my arm, but I didn't really feel the jellyfish itself. But I think I must have been, but it wasn't anything bad. So it's just something I've got to get used to really and overcome the fear of what's
Lungs.
down. Yeah, that's it. That's a huge part of it.
Yeah, I know you're very brave. And also, I need to say, you're doing it, and it's a fantastic thing. But actually, you're also helping raise money for British Blind Sport doing this. So thank you. We really appreciate.
Oh, you're very welcome. Yeah, you're very welcome. And British Blind Sports have done a lot for me over the years. I think if it hadn't been for British Blind Sports, I never would be here now, really, because I learned to swim back in the days when they used to come and do training weekends and encourage us all to get into competitive swimming, and that's how I got into the swimming in the first place, and then obviously went on to the
And here you
Paralympics. Without British Blind Sports, I wouldn't be doing this. So yeah, it's quite fitting really that, I'm raising money for you guys and it's just going really
and we're
well.
really, really grateful. Mel, just a couple of more questions, really. I think, as a Paralympian yourself, obviously this time of year, Paris, I mean, the Olympics are happening, it's all very exciting. What advice would you give to athletes heading to Paris right now who represent Paralympics GB in the coming weeks?
Well, what I would say and what I wish I'd thought of before I went to both my Paralympics was just try as much as you can, try and enjoy it and try and soak up the atmosphere, because I was so stressed, especially for Sydney, that I didn't enjoy it that much at all. I mean, I know I said that it was an amazing experience. It was, but I think I could have got a lot more out of it than I did. And when you walk out for your race, just try and take a breath and try and absorb all the atmosphere that's there and the kind of all the cheers and the feeling of being there, because you're only going to get that once or twice in your life. And, it's although you're going to race, just try and absorb it and feel the energy and try and remember it, because I can remember it, but I wish I'd just enjoyed it more and been more open to the experience and try and get out and experiencing other sports as well. I didn't actually do that. I just did the swimming and all those, because swimming is very time consuming. I think it takes up most of the time of the games, but if you can, go and see some of the other sports, because it's, try and see what everybody else is doing. And I think it's actually really inspiring to see all the other sports and the other disabilities, and also just really exciting to be part of it all. So my advice would be just really try and enjoy it as much as you can, because you don't get these times very often in your life, and before you know it, they're gone, and you're just reflecting on them. So try and have some good
That's a
memories
really
from
good
it.
piece of advice to just stand there and soak in the moment and be proud of the fact that they've got there.
Definitely. Yeah. I mean, they've worked so hard for
Mm,
4 years to get there. You've made it really before anything else happens. You've just done so much more than anybody could ever dream of doing. So just try and enjoy that as much as you can. And then what you do when you're there is the icing on the
yeah.
cake, really.
And in terms of, and it's great to hear that, we've got a really strong Paralympic team, that you've had some really good experiences, that you can see that, the role that British Blind Sports has played in helping many of our athletes get onto that journey. But a lot of people don't want to be a Paralympian. They just want to get active or get involved in sport. What do you think are the main challenges for blind and partially sighted people wanting to get active in today's world?
Oh, I think the challenges are huge. I think being blind or visually impaired is just, it's incredibly isolating, and it's so easy just to take the easy route out and just sit on the sofa and
Mhm.
watch TV, or, try and just hide away. I mean, I did that for quite a long time, and it's always the easy
Absolutely.
thing to do. Being in social situations is really intimidating, and it can be really, really difficult to put yourself out there and do something new and try something new. And that's where I think the Have a Go days are great, because it gives people a chance to have a go and try something new that they might never thought of doing before, but could actually end up making loads of new friends and finding something that they actually really enjoy doing. I actually got into open water swimming in Italy. It was just because I wanted to try it, and I just fell in love with the feeling that you get being in the water and being immersed in nature. And in a way, I can't wait to going back to just going out to the river and having a little bob around and a chat with people, just experiencing being in water and socializing. And I've made so many new friends from doing this, which I never really thought I'd be able to. And also because of that, it's given me a lot of confidence in who I am, and that's spilled
Yeah.
over into the rest of my life. So I think initially it's a huge thing to do to try something new. But once you do find something that you enjoy, it doesn't have to be competitive at all. It just helps in lots of areas of your life, and you make new friends, and just find something that you love doing that will just make you feel good about yourself, really. So just those first initial steps are really, really hard, but
Yeah.
definitely worth doing. And so look at the Have a Go days, because there's loads that keep coming up, and
Yeah.
you might find
And I
something
agree.
new.
You mentioned there about making friends, and a bit earlier on, you said about, socializing with people. I think sport has the perception of sport is, I don't want to be a Paralympian, or I've had a really bad experience in school. And that goes for, many different people, people with disabilities and people who are not disabled. They might just have it's the challenge of itself of starting, particularly if they've had a bad experience. But you don't have to be an Olympian or Paralympian. What you go out there, get fit, get healthy, and meet people, because that's social bit. And you talked about, being blind or partially sighted is really can be very, very isolating. That social bit is the bit that I think is definitely key. In the bit that, I do my bit of my work for is to get people to participate in sports so that they can make friends and meet people and just feel like they're bigger part of something.
Definitely, definitely. I really agree with that. And alongside all that as well is all the kind of the mental well-being part of sport as well. I mean, if you don't feel like getting out and meeting somebody,
Yeah.
and we all have bad days, don't we? I think just doing like some audio described fitness workout, like a HIIT workout, can make you feel so much better about yourself. Even just 10 or 15 minutes of that. And you'll feel a lot better about yourself and life in general. And I know that BBS actually run some audio described HIIT workouts, and
Yeah.
I think there's yoga that you can do that's audio described as well, and that can make you feel not just your body feel better, but your mind feels better, and then it just makes you feel better about life and confidence and everything as well. So it doesn't have to be getting out and meeting other people, but if you're having a bad day, you can still do some exercise that will make you feel better. But yes, generally, sport is not really for competitiveness,
Yeah.
but for socializing, and I think that's like you said, that's quite often forgotten about. It's people think of it as competing all the time, but I think so the social aspect is the most
Mm,
important thing for me
definitely.
at
And
the
and that
moment.
mental well-being is so important. And we do still continue to have our online at home audios. So you're right. If anybody's listening, by all means, So Mel, before we wrap up, but you've had this tapestry of sport in life, which has been really exciting. And certainly, like you said, has held you in good stead for the future. And we're so sort of pushing from behind for you to be this first blind woman to swim across the English Channel. We're cheering you on. But before you go in your sporting career, and you will have had ups and downs and challenges, it would be really helpful for our listeners to know what's the best piece of advice you've ever received that stood you in good stead in your sporting career?
Oh, that's a tough one. Well, I think it's all very individual to the different sports that I've done, really. I mean, at the moment, for me, it's all
Mhm.
about mental strength, and I think that does go across a lot of sports. I think the sports that I'm doing at the moment is the only thing that's really in my head, and that is all really about determination and grit and about sheer bloody mindedness, I think. It's if I'm
That
allowed to
you
say
can.
that, but I think in the past, all I can really think about is what people have told me in the past year, which has been what I think it can probably go across many sports actually. But if you feel like you're at your limit and you want to finish, you want to stop, and in my case, get out because you're too tired, too cold, then just give your body and your mind 5 more minutes, and then reassess. And quite often things have changed and you can carry on. I might find some more energy from somewhere else, or my mind might have moved on to something else. So I think the same thing applies to kind of like marathon running or anything that's quite an endurance based sport. Then the other thing is, if you want to stop, then imagine what you'd feel like when you got out and you'd warmed up and had a drink and had a cup of tea. Would you feel satisfied with what you've done? And I think that's quite good advice for a lot of sports, because you might feel like you're at your limit, but if you got out and finished and you regretted it, then it's you're not really, are you? So I think it's quite a good thing to think about, because quite often you feel like you're on your last legs, but you've still got a lot of energy left. And I think it's something. I think the Marines have got some motto which I might use in 4 weeks' time. You might feel like you're done. When you feel like you're done, you're actually only 40% done. So if you feel like you're on your knees and you've got no more energy, then you've actually got masses and masses more than you really think you have. So that's also really good. So all of my advice has just been just been pretty much endurance based sports. So it's not great for anything else, I'm afraid. Although, going back to the Paralympics, I think the main thing is to enjoy what you're doing. And if you're not enjoying it, then it's probably not really the right thing for you. It's got to be something that you really love doing and you look forward to doing. If you don't, then perhaps you're just doing too much of it, or perhaps it's not the sport that you really enjoy, you really should be doing. If it becomes a bit more of a chore than it should be, then yeah, it's got to be something that you love. Otherwise, it's not going to be great, is it? So love what you're doing, and you can always do more than you think you can.
It's
Well,
a
but
great piece of advice,
that's
and I don't think it is just for endurance sports. I think it's very much, if you think you've reached your peak, you've got more in you. Is basically what I'm picking up from there. Mel, I'm wrapping up
yeah,
now. Just
definitely.
just one more thing. I know that Sky Sports and Find It Film have been following you on your training journey ahead of the English Channel swim That's really exciting. I believe it's going to be called Untethered, the documentary. Do we know yet when that's going to air? Because I'm sure people would love to see your journey.
Yeah, that's really exciting actually. So they've been following me throughout all of my training. We were in Dover together last week, so they've filmed me in Dover. Yeah, they've done a lot of interviewing. We talked a lot about not just swimming, but kind of my identity, my personal identity, and kind of like blind pride and all that kind of thing. So it's all about my life story, not just swimming. So they're going to be on the boat and filming the Channel crossing, and hopefully, if it all goes to plan, it will be released the end of this year, I think, on Sky Sports. I mean, with the channel swim, there are so many variables. It could be that hopefully it's successful, but it could be that the weather
Yeah.
changes while I'm out there and I get pulled from the water, which they could still make a story out of. The worst case
Wow.
scenario is if the weather's really bad and I just don't get to swim at all because it's bad all week, and then I'm not sure what they're going to do about it. And that'd be really frustrating anyway. So fingers crossed the weather's good and then they can get a good story out of it
Well,
either
I
way.
think it is a good story. I think it's a story of resilience and endurance. And we're going to have to wrap up there. But we wish you the best of luck. And I hope that we will get to see the story on Sky later on in the year. And I would encourage other people to watch. Thank you for your time, Mel. It's been brilliant.